I would use my intuition. I would use that kind of whisper in my ear to help the parents that I worked with and also the children.
Welcome to Supernormalized, the podcast where we challenge the conventional, break boundaries, and normalize the supernatural. Join me, CJ, as we explore uncharted realms of existence and unravel the mysteries of our universe. If you have an unusual knowledge or unique story you'd like to share, reach out to me at supernormalized@proton.me. Let's make the supernatural the new normal. Today we have on the show Michelle Henderson, who is a psychic medium of many, many years, has also written a book on assisting children with gaining powers with their intuition through breathing techniques and drama techniques. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk to her today. And you'll find in this show all of her understanding about how that all works and how her experiences in the past led her to becoming a psychic medium, spiritual advisor, and speaker. So, dear listener, I truly appreciate your company on this audio journey. And if you're enjoying Supernormalized, I kindly ask for your support. Please pick up your podcast app and pop it open right now and give us 5 stars to let the world know and those computer algorithms know that this is a conversation that you'd love to share. So if you could do that for me, I'd really appreciate your support. Now, on to the show. Welcome to Supernormalized, Michelle Henderson.
Hello, hello.
Hey, it's great to have you on the show, Michelle. And so you're in Texas right now, and it's been a lovely day for you. It's been a very early day for me still. I'm still waking up. It was very hard to get up because I was like, I just want to sleep in for once.
Right.
But here I am, and we're getting into this today. Now, we were just talking before we started about your origin story and how you came to discover your intuitive abilities. What happened there for you, and when did this happen?
Oh my goodness. We could always start, when I was a youngster, which was pretty much whenever it did start. So whenever I was younger, and I would say probably about 6 or 7, I could feel something in the room. I could feel that energy. I couldn't see it, but I could feel the energy, and I knew I was not alone. Right. And, at night, that's the worst feeling that you can have as a child. So I did not want to sleep alone. I wanted my mom in the room with me. Many times I slept in my brother's room on the floor. And I also could feel other people's feelings and their emotions. So I found out it was an empath that way. Okay. But I was told to, be quiet because that was all evil. That was nothing we needed to look into. Okay. Coming from a Christian background.
Yes.
And then whenever I was 20, about 2022, I started having visitations in my home. Like Spirit was saying, you know what? You need to come work with us. And I could hear the voices. At first I thought I was going crazy.
Don't worry.
Like we all do when we hear the voices, right, from an entity. Yeah. But this was actually external this time. I could hear them like they were in my living room, and I could hear like a TV being lowered. I could hear them, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. They were having a conversation.
Okay.
And of course, I thought the devil was coming after me. It was scary. And then I could feel them coming closer to my room. And when I was sleeping at that time, then they shook my bed. They actually shook my bed to wake me up. Yes. And I said, and I closed my eye, covered my eyes on my head. And I said, "You're scaring me." And at that time, I could feel someone soothing me by rubbing the back of my neck.
Yes.
And that's when I thought, okay, I'm safe.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I went to my minister, I went to friends. And of course, my minister, though, was so wonderful. She said, you know what, Michelle, if you don't want to connect in with spirit at this time or have any connection with them, it's nothing evil. Just tell them to go away.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I did. And so years later, I still could feel people, spirits around me,
Yes.
but they never really bothered me as much as they did back then until I gave them permission and when I was ready to work with them.
Yeah, right. How long did it take for you to get that, would you say courage up to be able to open to that?
I want to say, gosh, and I hate to say this though, but about 10 years, because
Yeah.
really I had a psychic medium that was helping me work with my gifts
Mm.
and kind of understanding what was going on. And because I had that knowledge and I knew that I was in control, that's what kind of helped me not be afraid of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Good, good. Yeah, I have spirits work with me as well, and I've been doing it for quite a long time as well. And I have them joke with me sometimes, and one of the things I like doing
Yeah.
instead of to get my attention is they'll actually make me hear my alarm for my phone the wrong times, and I wake up going, I know it's not that time. Just can you stop it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, don't you love it? And you know what? And I love that type of humor that they do that.
Yeah.
Now, and whenever, especially when you're needing it, or they'll actually hide some items in your house when
Oh,
you're trying to find something, and then you'll find it, and you go, okay, one there before. I know there's a trickster among me right now.
yes,
But
exactly.
yes, but
Yeah.
needless to say, I have been in haunted houses before, and that energy is so different than what I work with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm certain there is trickster energy around fairly often for pretty much everyone. I mean, people would, be wise to get more of an understanding across these sort of things, because then it actually makes more sense of the world, and
Right.
my wife works with people with healing, and so she knows when trickster energy is around, and she's got to banish it quite often, and sometimes
Yeah.
we've got to do other works like put barriers around the house and do prayers. We actually do specific prayers to actually blast them away, because we don't need them around.
Right.
They don't help.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're just interfering.
Yeah, absolutely. And after I do readings, and I do a lot of my readings online. And
Right.
so I really have to, like you said, like you sage or to clear the environment, the energy.
Yes.
So, and I always say, you know what? I'm done working. I don't want you around. I don't want anybody talking to me, because they will disturb you, because they're like anybody else. They want your attention. Like, I want to get that message to my friend or to my loved one. It's like,
Well, I mean,
not right now.
The way it's like they know they've got an ear here and they can talk into it, and so they do have a go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you've been doing this for how many years now?
Now, professionally, I've done it. This is my 4th year.
4th year. Wow.
But I have used it, needless to say, because I was in education. I would use my intuition. I would use that kind of whisper in my ear to help the parents that I worked with and also the children. So it was kind of like a spiritual experience, just to kind of give me that intuitiveness. And sometimes when and when you work with parents, they get emotional. I mean, I do too as a parent. Yeah. And so, especially at a public school system, if you're working with special ed, they get really emotional. And I've learned how to kind of get my calming energy passed on to somebody else's energy to calm them down. Nice. And so I was able to do that and just send them that love energy.
Yeah. Yes. So you were working as a normal person doing normal things, and during that 10 years, giving them the cold shoulder. That's right. But then, over that 10-year period, what actually made you think, maybe I should actually start listening to them? And
I love that question. Because, and it's so interesting that spirit kind of moves you along. The universe says, okay, when it's time, it's time. I had what we call job burnout. I was so burned
Oh,
out. And at
yes.
the same time, my intuition was really peaking up. And
Mhm.
I could tell that I was getting more irritated with, not loving things and not peaceful
Um,
things. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time. And I really felt drawn to it. I
oh,
felt like it
right.
was a calling,
Yes.
like anything else. And so I told my husband, I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to retire from education and look what's ahead of the spiritual realm.
Mm.
And he said, absolutely, go for it. And I went, which, I just love the support because, to me, the energy in the house is so much better when you have all the support and that
Yes.
he's not afraid of it as well.
Yeah, yeah. It works when everybody's in accord with the understanding of how
Mm-hmm.
these things work
Right.
and can support each other within them as well. So yeah, I'm lucky to actually have that in my life as well with my wife and the work she does with people with healing, and so she understands that everything that I say about spirits and to me all
Right.
this stuff is normal and it has been for a very long time. So when we met, it was like, oh yeah, somebody that understands.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And when people, it's so interesting too, because whenever my friends and everybody else found out I was doing this professionally,
Mm.
it's so interesting. You don't know the people that are normal, per se, that really believe in it. And I call them the sunglass people.
Ah,
Where they're
it's a
where they
good
go in
analogy.
for
I
a
like it.
reading and they've got a hat and they've got the sunglasses
Yeah.
on, a
Don't say I was
disguise
here.
on.
Don't tell anyone I was here,
Yeah,
all right?
right, right.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
but the more I've dove into it, the more I'm really finding out the supernatural, the things that you don't really know that's out there. There is more out there than what we know and what we realize. Because I've met people who, have made contacts with the aliens and
Yes.
who, had or contact with them on a consistent basis. Those are their guiding people.
Mhm.
They're on their team. So I have learned so much since I've been in this business.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, one of my friends actually talks about the way the world is, and he makes a point of saying that we've got it pretty much upside down. There's not spirits visiting us; we're actually swimming in a bowl like a soup of spirits all the time. The difference
Right.
is when you actually tune in by changing your own frequency towards reception of that
Absolutely.
information, and
Right.
that makes perfect sense to me. And
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else that I've done that, and talk about frequency.
yeah,
Okay, so and the strongest thing I've ever had is wine, right?
yes,
Wine. So my spiritual teacher started doing the sacred medicine with a
mm,
shaman,
yes,
and I was really, like I said, I was drawn to it. I felt like the plants were actually calling me,
mm,
like any other type of spirit. And this was back in February of this year. And I thought, well, okay, I'm still learning. I'm going to do this, see what happens. And it wasn't ayahuasca, it was another plant medicine. And my frequency and my energy went out of this roof. And I
wow,
mean, when I say I say out of this roof, it's literally true.
yes,
I actually ascended a little bit. I left my body
hmm,
and I saw what was is considered a source, and I knew it was the source. It was like a yellow, almost like the sun, and
wow,
I could tell I was in a totally different universe, and I was seeing different entities, in the clouds, or I don't know what you call those,
mm,
but before that, I was really healed through my cells with all my ancestral beliefs that my ancestors have, placed in my DNA and my cells.
yes,
And I was healed that way.
wow.
And ever since then, my energy has just stayed up, and I just feel healed and even more spiritual, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of important work to be done with people when it comes to ancestral lineage healing. That's a huge
Yes.
thing because we don't know all of the contracts and karmic contracts and self-deception contracts and basically spirit contracts people have built up over time through all of our DNA. We've got no
Right.
idea. And so
No.
so clearing a lot of that stuff really does help for tuning up. And you've obviously experienced that. And Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. My wife actually does that with people. So I'm very impressed. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to do that. So,
I know. Well, and my husband said, "You're doing what?" And I said, "I
yeah,
know it's not normal, but it seems like a lot of people that is beginning to peak. I think a lot of
it
people are
is.
becoming more interested in it.
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of people
Yeah.
are feeling this big change, I think, that we're all going through. And they're
Hmm.
starting to realize that the spiritual is moving into the material. That's the way I see it.
Right.
It's like we're getting more in tune with the spiritual while being in the material. And as part of that, then obviously people start waking up because,
Yeah.
before then we're in a different sort of dream. And now the dream is different again. And it's, yeah, it's becoming more integrated as one. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So
And to yeah.
you go.
Oh, I was just going to say it's almost like the Matrix.
Oh, yeah, definitely
Are
like the
you
Matrix.
going to take are you going to
Yeah.
take the red pill or the blue pill? Are you going to go to
Yeah.
sacred medicine or not?
Yeah. I've just been reading a book that sort of uncovers a lot of that from many different angles called Gnosis by Tom Montauk, and it's really really good. But it's a bit,
Mhm.
I'd say, syrupy in the amount of information. It's really thick and really hard to get through at times, and it's also very revealing. But yeah, lots of interesting things in there. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So you were working in this, and you founded a IASIS Learning
Oh,
Center,
right.
and worked as a non-profit organization that aimed to teach children social skills through the use of drama techniques. Obviously, you must have integrated some of your intuitive work with that somehow. What was going on there?
Oh, absolutely loved it. And I found out too, working with a lot of children under the autism spectrum,
Yes.
that they are very in tune themselves.
Oh,
And it was fascinating. And what I did with, and it was IASIS Learning Center. So they used their imagination to create video clips. And back then, and this was, gosh, before we had we had green screens, but not everybody had the technology to use it. And
right.
so with these kids, we would do social skills and they would create. Sometimes I said, okay, on different days, you can create your own little skit. And they absolutely love doing that. And they could see themselves on the TV. They could be anywhere. And of course, they're all into science mainly.
Yeah,
And
right.
so so I just felt like very connected in with these kids
Mm,
because, the strategies that I used, I got to see who they truly were. And not better way than anything creative, because when you bring in that creativity, they bring down that anxiety and they just
right.
love it. They love showing who they are.
Yes. Because it maybe seeing themselves in another space put them in a third
Yes.
person aspect, and that allowed them to be more free.
Right. And
Interesting.
and what's really interesting, just on the side note, working with children with autism,
Yeah.
the lower functioning children who, when I say low functioning, just not verbal, okay,
Okay.
nonverbal, they would kind of look off in the distance. And I always do, and they would start laughing. And I'd be going, "Who are you talking to?" Because I knew they could see somebody, and I
Yeah.
could feel the energy in the room.
Mm,
And I'm going, they're seeing somebody that is playing with them.
very
So yeah,
interesting. Did they ever tell
right.
you?
They couldn't because being nonverbal.
Yes, right. But in other
They
ways, like drawing or anything like that, or
no,
no?
no,
Okay.
because many of them couldn't even hold a pencil or draw or whatever.
Okay. I understand.
So, but no, I never really got an answer. They would kind of come back and just kind of, okay, it's ready, time to get back to work.
Yeah, right.
um,
Yeah.
but I also whenever they would have a temper tantrum,
Hmm.
many times I would calm them down by my thoughts. Okay. I would say,
Okay.
get in my thought with my energy, calm down. It's going to be okay. And I could see the child calming down. So I don't know what the research is behind telepathy, but I definitely believe in that.
Right. So it's like a would you say like empathic spiritual laying
Yeah.
of hands to transmit energy to
Right.
calm the systems. Very cool.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm. Okay, so you were led to write a book called The Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, training parents to embrace and enhance their psychic abilities. what spurned that for you? What made you go, I've got to
Oh,
write this book now? Because
yes.
you've had so many experiences of this and how to actually bring it through. How'd that come together?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's so interesting because they always say that during meditation is where you get a lot of downloads, you get a lot of thoughts because
Yeah.
your thoughts have slowed down and you get the best ideas. And so, whenever I was going through training, how to be more specific in my skills as a psychic, I met so many people that went through the same experience, that they were shut down as a child when they had this intuitive gift. And I thought, you know what? I went through that, and I don't want our kids in the future to go through that as well. I
Mm.
want to be able to help these parents not be afraid of it, but to embrace it. And then I thought to myself, I'm always a child advocate. I might as well do this too,
Yeah.
because I've worked with so many, with kids for so many years. And I did home training with parents.
Mm.
And I thought I could do the same thing with intuitive children. So I
Yeah.
went ahead, and everything I learned how to tune into my gift as a psychic medium as an adult, what I did is a lot of those exercises, I brought that down for a child to be able to do. So the book really encompasses a lot of exercises that a child can use to be able to, embrace their intuitiveness, make it stronger. Or if they decide not to use it at that time, they can go back, say, you know what, this is normal,
Yes.
especially for me,
Yeah.
and I can come back to it later.
Mhm. Mhm. And so you've had a lot of success with working with children with doing that. And is there any technique that you could share with us today, like just even a simple technique that is one of the whole toolkit that you use?
Yes, okay, yeah, and I can do that, but I also want to explain what the number one thing I love
Yeah, sure.
is whenever the parents first contact me, the same question, should I be afraid of this? And I go through, talk to them about, is your child afraid? What's going on? And many times they go, you know what, when I was a child, I was intuitive as well, and I was scared of it because I was told to be scared of it. So
Mm.
helping the parents embrace it and give them knowledge, that really has helped.
Mm.
But the breathing techniques, to me, in the book really helps, because when a child, starts feeling an entity, especially as they get older and they know that, you know, there might be some scaredness, or they watch a scary movie and they're going, okay, that horrible entity is after me. They stop breathing. I mean, it's almost like we all do when we get scared. But
Yes.
if they breathe into it and start thinking, okay, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. So if you get what's called a Hoberman spear, it's a toy,
Yeah.
and
Oh, those ones. Yeah, 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 yeah. I know what you
yes,
mean.
yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kids love it. But
Mm.
it's also a visualization that whenever you breathe in, you make the ball bigger. And then when you breathe out, you make the ball smaller. And it
Yes.
helps them control their breathing.
Mm.
And then they say, I'm safe, I'm good, I'm safe, I'm good, as they're doing it.
Yeah.
And it really makes them feel like they're in control. And then there's another thing I want to talk about as well in the room. If they feel like, there's entities in their room where they can feel them and they're trying to go to sleep and they don't want to play, but they may not be afraid of it, spray, like a sage spray, really helps them.
Mm.
And have the kid do it. Okay.
Right.
And
Yeah,
spray
getting control of it.
is a lot, but yes, so that they feel like they're in control.
Yeah.
And they can spray it all in their room. It smells really good, for one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they can say, you know what, go spirit, go spirits. They can say a little prayer and say, I'm ready to go to sleep. And then that way, yes, they feel like they are in control.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Excellent. That's a really good way to actually work with those things and those spirits. And now how does this affect your faith, though? I mean, you've come a long way with this information, and you've written a book for children, and obviously you still have a faith with God and your connection to God. And how does this all affect your faith as you go along?
It has actually made it stronger.
Stronger. Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And people are really surprised, but I still go to church. I still read the Bible.
Yeah.
But my faith is so much stronger because I feel like, and because my Jesus, the one that,
Mm,
and I feel like I have a great relationship with Jesus, is a loving Jesus, is a
mm,
loving God. Okay.
yes.
And the universe is loving. And I don't, and I know I'm not doing anything wrong. And I know that sometimes my ego will get in the way. And I don't think it's faith. I think it's more of the fear that comes in.
Mm.
And then I'm going, you know what? God has woken me up to do this so that I can help other people find the faith and find the guidance in their life that they need. And when I say faith, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking more of their spiritual pathway.
Yeah, right, right. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, with the children and working with their parents, with their understanding of how this all works, is there any effective communication strategies that parents can use to connect with and support their intuitive children as they grow up in this? Because often we, as you said, and also
Mm-hmm.
noticed yourself, we all get usually shut down on this path. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that happened for me. Because I
Right.
was trying to explain what was happening for me to my own parents. They're like, "What? What is this?" So,
Right.
but
Right.
and then as of course, you want to be normal, so you just try and
Right.
stop it.
Absolutely.
But that
And
also, yeah,
yeah,
that causes a rift in ourselves, because we do discard a part of ourselves to make other people feel comfortable, and that's not
absolutely.
necessary, really, in the end. If people were more understanding, so yeah, could you please go ahead with what you're going to say there?
Absolutely. And I like the word, we need to throw that out, normal.
Yeah,
There's nothing normal anymore. Okay. Nothing. And
yeah,
there never has been anything that's normal.
yeah. I
It's
think
just
so.
society. We try to find, what is normal, but we need to throw that word out. But what the first thing that parents need to do is to listen to their child
Yes.
without judgment, without saying what, not making a face, even in your energy, because your child can feel your energy. Don't be afraid. If you become afraid, put it aside and say, I need to listen to my child and see what they have to say,
Mm,
and really listen to it and say, you know what, and find out if they're afraid. If not, embrace it and say, well, what can I do to help you? If they're afraid, what you need to do is find somebody that can help your child be unafraid. You can help them as well. But knowledge is the most important thing for both the parents and for the child. And I love what you said. As they get older, if they're teenagers and they're not accepted fully, they're going to
yes,
start dabbing into more of the lower energy stuff,
yeah,
and really in drugs and alcohol. And you're going to a lot of times they'll be depressed because they're not able to show their true selves.
that's right.
And but if you say, you know what, I accept you for who you are, and let's see what we can do. Even a 16-year-old, many times, if they want to, do any type of healing, and God has given them that, and they're feeling called to it, allow them to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
that self-expression needs to be nurtured because
Mm-hmm.
really, it's a part of us. We all have it. It's sort of like if you think about it, as if we were wild animals, we just know things that are around us and how to work with the world. But in being encouraged to live in this lifestyle of being human, we suppress a lot of that connection to that innate animal intuition. And this is what
Right.
I think a part of this is this innate animal intuition, which is connection to spirits and everything that are around as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, encouragement of that and rather than suppression is definitely the best way to go for us to become whole, spiritual and material beings at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So, in your experience, what are some of the misconceptions and misunderstandings that people often have about intuitive children, and how can they be addressed?
And how can they what?
How can they be addressed?
Oh, how can they be addressed? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times whenever, children, especially in the education, whenever a parent says my child is being very sensitive, a lot of times doctors will diagnose them with some type of ADHD, with a lot of
Yes.
hyperactivity, or again with anxiety or social anxiety. And a lot of our empaths, a lot of our children that are in tune will have anxiety because they're feeling it, all this energy, until they can actually deal with it. So the, physicians, what they want to do is put your child on medicine. So what the parents need to do is look at it from all different perspectives. Now, sometimes a child does need medicine, depending upon the situation. So I don't want to go there, say don't put your child on medicine. Sometimes there's a situation where you need to. But as a parent, you need to look at all sides. Well, what
Absolutely.
else is going on? And really, that's when you listen to your child. What else is going on with you? Why are you feeling this social anxiety? Why do you get social anxiety when you go to the mall versus whenever you're just with a small group? Why is there a difference? And so just start asking questions. And a lot of times, it just may be energy related. But just ask the questions and do your research, and don't just go with one diagnosis.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There has to be a holistic understanding of what's going on.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. Can you explain how drama techniques effectively enhance social skills development in children?
Absolutely. And I love this question. Yeah. So, and this is good too with children that are intuitive, that are shy, and they don't know how to really voice their opinion. So drama is excellent because they can play different characters, okay, and kind of feel how other characters are feeling and kind of work with those emotions. And a lot of times, whenever, like if you have a character that's angry, and then, you play in a play and you're, acting as an angry person. And then whenever you're feeling something angry, you're feeling anger and you're going, why should I be angry when I haven't been in a situation to make me angry? That must be some type of energy from somebody else. Those are not my feelings. That's somebody else. So that kind of helps them identify feelings. And another one is spontaneous language. So whenever you give them, like I'll say, you play Sally, you play Tom, and y'all talk about, just have a conversation about going to the mall, and without giving them a script. Or they interview each other without a script.
Wow,
So
cool.
it really is that spontaneous language, not being afraid of what somebody's going to say next, and you're ready to dive in and say exactly what you're feeling next. It also gives you that voice. I'm going to speak up. It just gives you that confidence, being the actor.
Yeah, right. Just stepping into yourself in a different way so that you are,
Right.
brought
Right.
forward. I get it. Okay, so what motivated you to pursue certification as a spiritual advisor, psychic, and medium? It must have been quite a path to get to that, and then you pursued the certification. How did you do that? And
Absolutely. So I got my certificate through Lisa Williams International School of Development. Okay. And
yes,
it was a 9-month program. And it was pretty intense. We met like twice a week. Absolutely loved it. The reason why I feel like I needed to get certified through Lisa Williams is because as a teacher, I was constantly going, well, are you certified to teach? And to me, that just tells people that I am willing to take classes and really tune into my skill. Not meaning that, it comes naturally. Sometimes you can get better at something, and also you can communicate with better. You have your ethics as well. So the number one thing that I learned is through ethics, how to really give value to your customers, what you need to say, how you can help them, and become a better psychic medium. So that's why I pursued it. After the training, what we had to do, we had to go and meet with Lisa as a group, and we had to read 3 different people that we didn't know, cold readings, and they had to rate us. And then after that is when we get certified.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
and yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
So we had to get tested.
Yeah,
right.
it's a good way to see that you are tuning in accurately and proof
Right.
really.
Right.
Okay.
And proof saying, yes, I can go on. I think I'm ready.
But you knew it already
to me,
before.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how your skills change.
Right.
You don't know because I started out doing, drawing and stuff. And now my information comes so quickly, I don't need to do that anymore.
Right. When you say drawing, was that like spirit drawing? I mean, how did that work?
Yes. Okay. So so I would do what I would say, because you can't do a real drawing in 30 minutes. So it's a likeness drawing.
Right.
And what that did for me, it would open, I would stop thinking, because that fear would come in. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? And so I would listen to spirit, the loved one, and they would tell me what color hair they had, what they wanted me to put on their face, and the information they wanted me to tell their loved one. And
Right.
that really opened up my mind, because I wasn't thinking about failure. It just kind of is, it's kind of a way, like when you're driving in a car, you're not thinking, you're I know it's kind of scary. You're not really thinking about where you're driving, but your mind wanders off. That's the
Yes.
same thing with drawing, is that you can do multiple things and open up at the same time.
It sounds a lot like remote viewing, but instead of remote viewing a place or a scene, you're actually remote viewing a person that's a dearly beloved that has passed.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
very cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now you've changed that into instead of being a drawing, into maybe even a dialogue
Right.
or in a movie where you can talk with them.
Absolutely. And it comes so fast now that the drawing kind of gets in the way.
Oh,
But I can also do that afterwards. But yeah, it slowed me down after a while. I'll go, okay, let's go
mm,
ahead and not have that, and I don't need that anymore.
yeah. So when people come through for you, do they come through as audio or audio and visual at the same time, or yeah, how clear?
It really depends on the spirit. I know that sounds strange. The very shy people that were here on earth, if they were their characteristic, they were really shy. Sometimes they'll just do feelings. I can feel what they want me to
Mhm.
say. Okay.
Right.
Then the ones that are real talkative, oh my goodness, they'll
Yeah.
start talking, and sometimes they'll talk too fast, and I have to tell them, can you slow down so I can understand what you are saying?
Yes.
And then sometimes I'll have all three. I'll have the visions, I'll have, like a little like you said, a little movie in my head going on.
Yes.
And I always tell them, I don't know what this means, but they're showing me like a lake with a fire. What does that mean to you? That
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So like impressions that they needed to get across.
Right.
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 Right. I've had spirits sometimes visit and make their impressions that they're trying to get across come across first of all as an identity thing, where they'd come along and they have like a smell as grandma would turn up,
Right.
and you're like, whoa, oh, that's grandma's here, And I love that when that
Right.
happens. You know what I mean? So
So you do the smells. Yeah, usually I don't do the smelling one. But
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Oh, it's not always, but that's just sometimes,
Yeah.
and I even sometimes smell the trickster spirits, and they always smell like sulfur and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
whenever that happens to me, I'm like, I'm gonna go, okay, time to call on Mary, and she picks it up.
Absolutely. But and what's frustrating sometimes is a lot of times spirit will communicate with the things I understand. So whenever I interpret it, it won't, the person I'm reading for won't understand it. Or they'll have what we call psychic amnesia, because they get so emotional and
Yes,
they can't, and I had one lady at a fair one time come back hours later, and she goes, oh my gosh, I finally figured out what you were talking about. So
it took time to
that's
sink
like,
in.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm going,
right.
oh, because it was so strong. I'm going, I know that information was right, but what's happening? But yeah, and that's what happens a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, can you share any personal experiences or milestones from your journey as a psychic and medium in your development?
Oh, milestones. Well, absolutely. And I think the milestones with me is the number one thing was not being afraid anymore.
Mm,
Once I reached that milestone of no more am I going to be afraid, everything's going to work out. And I would say, gosh, maybe a year into my training, you
right.
know, and accepting it and going, I'm going to be okay. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's how we learn from it. And maybe maybe spirit's teaching me something. So I think that was the number one milestone, is just getting over that fear,
Yeah.
and also not being a people pleaser.
Okay.
Because yes,
How did that play out in your story and when it came
oh my
to
gosh,
working with people?
I have always been a people pleaser. And I think being an educator, a lot of teachers are people pleasers.
Right.
That's just something I developed probably as a child. But
Yes.
as you get older, and I think this goes with age as well, you get to a point where, you know what, I don't have much time here left on earth. Why should I care what people believe, in me? What,
Yeah, right.
because for one thing, I thought, oh, they're always thinking of me. They're going to think I'm awful. They don't even think about conversation, or they don't think twice about you. They have
Yes.
their own life. And I finally figured that out. And I went, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, we're all
And
just as busy as each other. And
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
And I think that
And
yeah, you go
yeah.
ahead. You go.
Oh, I was going to say, and if they really, truly am disappointed in me, then they
Yes.
don't need to be in my life.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I totally understand that. And yeah, I think that we do the people pleasing thing for quite a while until we realize that it actually doesn't benefit us because we're not living our truth. And yeah,
That's true.
yeah. So what does being a light worker mean to you, and how has that influenced your life and all of your work?
And I think a light worker, that can mean so many things, because whenever I do the psychic readings, I feel like, yeah, I'm a psychic medium, but am I actually healing the person in front of me? And being a light worker is just helping whoever you can, being a good influence, be authentic, and changing the world for a better energy and a better place.
Mhm.
And just, being the light for everybody, almost like being the lighthouse, as I call it. Have people come to you for the healing. And if they feel that energy, those are the ones that need your healing
Right.
the most.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, the people that are actually naturally drawn to you for work, spirits tap them on the shoulder too. And sometimes they turn up
Yeah,
and they're not even sure why they're there. So it's
exactly.
sometimes it's your job to stand there and go, okay, what have we got to tell them?
Yeah. And really being a light worker, I think it has increased my faith in spirituality.
Yeah, right, right. And
Right.
yeah, I can understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this connection to spirit and working with spirit in such a way so that it is to the benefit of the people around you, it's only natural that it's going to enhance your faith because you're
Right.
building a stronger faith in the positivity of change. In your time with working with people, you've probably come across a few of your stories of those experiences of helping people that have been really surprising or amazing, where you walked away going, "Oh wow, that was a huge one," and that huge change for them, you got to see them change in their lives because of the information you pulled through. Do you have anything like that that's not too revealing about those people, and but is a good story that you can relate so people can understand the power of intuitive work?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've got two I can share with, I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
probably more than that, but ones that really, and it's whenever I read for people, it's not the ones that understand everything I'm saying and go, yeah, 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 that kind of thing. It's the ones that are hard, that,
Right.
you finally got through that wall, that they put up. But yeah, so when I first started out, I actually I had a lady sit in front of me and she goes, oh, I don't care who you bring over. I want you to do mediumship. And so I started describing who I was bringing over, and I could tell her body started stiff, getting really tight and stiff. And her demeanor, she got white
Oh, no.
as a ghost. And she goes, I know who this is. And I went, okay. She goes, that's my stepdad. And I said, do
Oh.
you want me not to connect with him? I can say, go away. And she goes, no, I want to know what he has to say. And I mean, she kept looking at me like it was him and that she
Yes.
was going to come across the table. And I'm going, ooh, and I'm sweating. So I told her exactly what he was saying. And and she almost started crying on me. And she goes, okay, let me
Oh,
ask him a question. She asked a question,
yes.
and she's taking a deep breath at the very end, and not smiling. I'm going, oh my gosh, is she going to be okay? And she looked up and she said, thank you so much. I was needing that. And you could just tell that she was drained. I mean, it was only a 30-minute reading, but she was drained emotionally. But something in the reading really healed her.
Yeah.
Because her mom was close to dying, and she was just needing some type of confirmation, and she got it.
Beautiful.
All right. The second one that I want to tell you about was actually about a haunting that a person had. Okay.
Okay.
In other words, she had an entity who was haunting her.
Yep.
And so whenever she came, I was going, okay, I've got this guy who works in your office and, or used to knows where you work. And I said, he was an advertisement. And she's going, no, that doesn't sound familiar at all. And I'm writing everything down, and it's a very strong connection. And I said, for some reason, he's telling me that he knows where you work and he loves to see you work. And I said, maybe it's somebody from your office that you picked up. And she goes, no, that can't be anybody. So then I said, okay, I'm going to let him go. I said, is there anybody else? So I was able to connect with someone that she knew. This is the one that came 2 hours later.
Oh.
And she said, I told my friend that works with me about what you said about this guy, and we figured out who it was. And so it was a client whose husband that came into the office with her a couple of times committed suicide.
Oh.
And was connected in with this office for some reason. It would not leave this office area.
Oh.
And so he attached her to my client. And so my client kind of is in the holistic field. And she said, okay, now I know that I have him with me. I'm going to get him to disconnect from me. So that's the first time I've ever had a spirit haunting somebody. And I didn't feel like it was a scary spirit. He was a very nice guy. It just, he attached himself to her, and she didn't want that attachment.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I sometimes spirit attachments can turn out like that. I had one that was a what would you call it? Like, people would say it's like more like a possession, where it stepped in a little bit and was influencing me. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't good.
Ooh,
but
right.
I had to boot that one out, and I had some help with that, and I got that one out. But they do that. They will actually haunt you, and they can haunt you. I mean, it's not anything to be afraid of. Anything. It's just the way things are. So
yeah, it's almost like, somebody that keeps coming into your life.
Yes.
And you're going, man, they're back, and then you push them back out. So it's almost the same thing. And to me, when we say we speak to dead people, they're not dead people. They're alive.
No,
they're more alive than we are.
yeah, and just in a different way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So around this point in the podcast, I usually ask people if they have any tips on working with them, the world as it is right now, because we are going through a lot of changes, and it's quite unusual. And you probably have your own ways in the world. And is there anything that you could share with people that actually would help them to get through all of these intense times?
Absolutely. Self-care is number one. Yeah. You've got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of who you are, speak your truth, and know you're going to be okay. Think of the gratitude, the positive, things that, and of course, don't watch the news, but but self-care is the number one thing that really needs to take place during a difficult time. When you start feeling that tense come up, either, do something that you love to do, so that you can say, you know what, I have passion for life. It's going to be okay. And a new day is a new day. I'm my own artist. I can create my canvas in any way that I want to. Excellent.
That's a very good summary. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for coming on to Supernormalized, Michelle. That was a blast. Now, you also have your own podcast as well, which is Michelle's Inspiration Hour. Where can people find that one? Is that on all the podcast apps? It is actually. So it's on YouTube, Instagram, and also Facebook. And I've made a separate one for that as well. Okay. And where else can people find you? What I mainly do is send them to my website, which is www.michellehendersonmedium.com. Excellent. Okay. So I'll place all that information in the show notes as well, and help other people to find you. And I just want to say thank you so much for your kind words and beautiful information today that you've shared. I'm sure everyone's
Thank
going to
you.
get some good tips and ideas out of that. And then also, if people need to find out more about your book, they can actually get that linked also through the show notes as well.
Right.
I'll place a link in there for
Okay.
that. And yeah, thank you for your time, Michelle. It's been a
Well,
pleasure.
thank you. Was it long enough?
Yeah. That's long enough.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I answer those questions very quickly.
That's okay. It's good to be very clear and succinct, I think.
Yeah, it helps going through that drama program where you spontaneously and you know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah. Just pops out. That's great.
That's right.
All
Thank you, and stay warm.
I will. Thank you. All right.
Okay,
You
thank
cool
you.
down.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye for now. Well, it was a pleasure to have Michelle on today, and she had some really good tips there for working with children and encouraging their intuitive abilities. And I think everyone could benefit from that, because I know as a child I was quite suppressed when it came to my skills and my understanding my connections with spirits and angels and fairies and everything. And to me, I think that's quite normal to have that sort of connection. And yeah, if you encourage that, then maybe a lot of kids wouldn't go through the teen angst years where they don't feel connected to the world. Thank you so much for listening today. And if you have anything that you'd like to share on the show, either a healing modality, a means of living in the world, or an understanding that you'd like to share, please reach out to me at supernormalized@proton.me. And I look forward to you coming back and listening to the show next week. All right. Bye for now.